Holy happy hour, Batman! I'm Ben. I'm an Episcopal priest and co-founder of the All Ports Open Network. On this show, I am joined by heroes of the gaming and geek world to talk about life, faith, spirituality, game design philosophy, and whatever else comes up. Tonight, at least tonight, where I am on the East Coast of North America in the United States, it's tonight. I'm excited to be joined by someone that I have wanted to get on this show since I encountered his work, honestly. We have tonight joining us, Samuel Mui Shen Ern is here. You know him as Babblegum Sam, and they are the game designer of Lumen Ryder Core, Capitalites, the forthcoming Capitalites, and many other games that you should check out on itch.io if you have not yet, including Christian games like What's So Cool About Being a Bad Christian, Wretched and Depraved, and Sorry God. So we're going to get Sam on here in just a couple of minutes. We're going to talk about all of that stuff, chat about all that and more. So stick around because we have an exciting episode with Sam. I'm just really hyped about this. I've been hyped about this for a while and it's here. So we're going to get into that in just a few minutes and bring Sam on the show. Wow, we haven't had an episode in 2 weeks. So I've got some really exciting announcements to talk about with you all. So I'm going to do a little bit of announcement time here before we get into our cocktail. So big announcement for you all. The ttrpg game design wing of our network, the All Ports Open Network, that hosts this show and others, we are now releasing games, and our first itchfunding campaign launches this week. This Thursday, May 5th, we will begin the itchfunding campaign for The Hard Lessons. The Hard Lessons is a storytelling and world-building game by J.W.G. Wise, the writer and creator of the hit horror audio drama podcast Weeping Cedars. The Hard Lessons is a game about a group of students who studied under one great master, but that master has fallen and they gather for one last night to remember their master, to share stories, and decide the ultimate fate of the master's school. They may even choose to destroy it and leave it in ruins. The game has a really cool arc to it. It really produces memorable stories. I've gotten to play it a few times. The world building aspects that are built in are really fun. I think it's a really cool game. Like, I think it's a perfect game to do to start like your session 0 of some campaign. It is setting and genre neutral, so you could really use it for any game that you're going to be starting. So it's a really cool session 0 game, different way to do world building. So yeah, you can kind of put it with any game you can imagine. And as like what you might call stretch goals, although we're itch funding, it's not Kickstarter, but what you might call stretch goals, we're going to publish unique play sets for specific genres to make the game even more customizable and specific for those genres. So I'm going to be working on some of those play sets, including a sports team like themed play set where your master is like a coach, like a sports coach, and you're all athletes who studied under that person. But it may be a coach, maybe a athlete. I haven't quite decided yet, but it's going to be like a sports themed version of the game, which I'm really excited to write that play set. So yeah, so we are we're really excited about this, and I'm working on the crowdfunding. I also was the layout designer for the game. I think it's a really fabulous game. I think it's really it's a blast to play. I've really had a lot of fun playing it several times. In fact, I played it last night. So it's also the launching platform for APON Games releases. What I mean by that is this is sort of our first crowdfunding campaign for APON Games. And so it's going to be kind of like launching us off for a bunch of other releases that we have planned, including like games like my game, Broken, a tragic romance game, which we will be funding at some point in the future. So please consider supporting the campaign later this week for The Hard Lessons. You can follow APON Games on itch.io to get updates, and you can look for the game later this week to drop. If you back it on itch, you'll be able to start playing the Ashcan version immediately. So if you back it later this week, you'll get the game right away, start playing it. So I also published my first game release on itch.io for the Together We Go Jam. You can find my game, To Whom Shall We Go, on the APON Games itch.io page. It's a single sheet OSR game about pilgrims with different beliefs about the same God, making a pilgrimage to find words of eternal life to bring back into a hurting and broken world. So find all of our games at apongames.itch.io. Make sure you hit the follow button so you don't miss our upcoming releases. This show that you're watching right now is a production of allportsopen.com. Check out our website, allportsopen.com, for our lineup of podcasts and streams, sharing, making, and talking about great stories with shows like Weeping Cedars, as I already mentioned, and Delinquent Comics, my Masks actual play superhero show, high drama superhero, anti-fascist, anti-capitalist superhero show. We had a new episode drop today, Vega Rising issue 14, so you can go ahead and check that out. All right, without further ado, it is happy hour. It is happy hour. And so I was so excited about having Sam on the show that I produced not just one, but two, really three. I really produced 3 cocktails. But I only have 2 recipes on screen to show you. I didn't get to take the third one, put it on a recipe card yet for you all to share with you. I will later, though. Count this as a promise. I am going to share 2 of them right now, and I can tell you about the third. So the first one I just called, and it's on the screen as you can see, I just called Babblegum. It's just Babblegum is the name of this cocktail, inspired by Babblegum Sam. And I wanted to try to make this like a little bit of a... This is inspired by literally the strongest cocktail on Earth. I actually can't remember the name. If you Google strongest cocktail on Earth, you'll find it. It's the one that comes up when you search for that. But I based it off of that, but I wanted to kind of turn it into almost a little bit of a bubblegum flavor. So this is a very strong cocktail. Like, be careful. It's a very strong cocktail. It's an ounce of brandy, 3 ounces of gin, 2 ounces of rum, 1 ounce of sour cherry liqueur, and a 1/4 ounce of banana liqueur. That's right. That's all spirits. There is no mixers in this drink. So seriously, I'm warning you, be careful. You combine all the ingredients in an ice shaker. You fill it with ice, shake vigorously, and then strain it into a large, you're going to need a real big martini glass. You can also do it like 1 part brandy, 3 parts, you could do it that way too, and kind of cut down a little bit on the ounces. But don't. Really enjoy this cocktail. And if you do try this, you got to let me know. Yeah, so that's the Babblegum. I got another one for you, though. I'm going to show everybody. I'm going to, let's see, make it visible on the screen here. There it is. This is called the Wretched and Depraved. It is inspired by the game of the same name by Sam. I wanted to do something also kind of strong. I was trying to think, like, what is a cocktail that sounds wretched and depraved? So I went with an absinthe-based drink. This is like such a delicious flavor combination. If you can get these ingredients and make this, seriously try it. It is, so it's absinthe. It's 1.5 ounces of absinthe and 1.5 ounces of absinthe, 1.5 ounces of gin, a handful of blackberries. So what you do is basically you're going to put the absinthe, the gin, and the blackberries into a shaker. You're going to muddle it, and then you're going to either just strain that into a coupe glass, or you could also, I guess, theoretically fill that with ice if you wanted to get cold, shake it, and then strain it. And then you're going to take chilled champagne and you're going to top it with the chilled champagne. So also extremely strong cocktail. So we went real strong this week. The last one that I invented is sort of a take on a Belvedere. I will have to write it up on a cocktail recipe card like the one you see on the screen. I don't know if people can even read this one because it's, let me see if I can make it a little bit bigger for folks because it's probably small. Let me see. There we go. You may be able to read it now. I don't know. I'll finish the other one. I think I was going to call it the Bad Christian, but I will also share that one once I finish it. So I was just real inspired this week, obviously, to make these drinks. So, all right, let's get rid of this Wretched and Depraved cocktail for right now off the screen. And let's not waste any more time. Let's bring our guests onto the show. So let's go ahead. Sam, welcome to Holy Happy Hour.
Yes, I'm finally here. Oh,
yeah.
2 months.
Yeah, that's
2
right.
months.
That's right.
Oh man.
So, like I said, it is tonight where I am, but it is not tonight where you are.
No, it's the morning. Yeah. I would be. I should just got the idea. I've been doing. I've been having a bit of a trouble with my stomach. And And as we all know, there's a verse in the Bible which says, "If you have stomach troubles, drink booze."
Yeah.
But then again, it is 7:30 in the morning, so let's not do that.
It's not the best. It's not the best time of day for happy hour.
Not the worst time. It's not the worst. Yeah. I don't know why, but I usually drink on stream. So I'm just having coffee like a normal person.
There you go. No, I feel like, coffee's a really good drink to drink on stream, and I feel like my problem is that so many of the streams I do are at night, and if I drink coffee, I'll never sleep.
So you booze.
Yeah, exactly. So we have a lot to talk about, but I can't help but think that maybe the most important thing we could talk about is the Batman. I feel like we should talk about the Batman.
we can lead in with the Batman.
Yeah.
Lead in the Batman. Yeah.
Is the Batman the best superhero movie ever made?
Well, oh wow.
Or is it just one of the best superhero movies ever made?
Well, I now have to think about which one's the best superhero movie ever made. I don't. Oh man, I know. I mean, it is definitely one of the best. Is it the best? Is the best one? I'm trying to think. I know. I love superhero TV shows. Like Legion, Doom Patrol, lots of Kamen Rider, Super Sentai. I can name a few, but for movies, right? Yeah, actually, it is one of the best. Because most of them are quite bland, I feel. Is it your favorite? Is that why?
I thought it was definitely up there. I definitely thought it was the best Batman movie I'd ever seen.
Yeah.
Was it the best superhero movie I'd ever seen? Probably not. That's probably inflammatory. It's probably just a big, statement. It's real good though, and when I get a little sad in my heart when I see people who didn't like it online. I mean, everyone's entitled to their own opinions, but I just love that movie so much. It just made me so happy. Even though it's not happy at all, I guess. But
yeah, it's the most human Bruce Wayne you've ever seen, isn't it? It's the most human Riddler. Yeah, so it's something that could fit within our world, but then I feel that there's room for like the weirdest stuff for Batman. I think you could put in Mr. Freeze in there, no problem. Killer Croc, no problem. Clayface, no problem. No, it's great. It's a perfect Batman movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, so the first time I saw it, I didn't cry at all, but the second time I saw it, I cried. I cried at two parts. I cried when he was leading everyone out with the torch, in his hand, and leading them from darkness into light and hope. And then he has that monologue. I just couldn't help it. The second time I saw it, I just lost it there. And then the second part that I cried at was when, this is big spoilers for the movie. I just realized I'm spoiling the Batman like crazy. Mute this stream if you don't want to hear spoilers about the Batman. But there's the part at the end of the movie where he and Catwoman are riding motorcycles in the cemetery, and they're like playing with each other as they're like going out. And it was really that playing with each other thing was just so human and real and just like so beautiful that I just couldn't handle it. I just lost it. Because anyone that knows Bruce Wayne knows that it's not a question, right? Bruce Wayne always chooses the city. He always chooses being Batman. So it's not a question, but it doesn't make it any less sad. Like if you care, you want to see him happy too. You don't want to see him, you want to see him happy. Although
that's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
He's not going to be happy.
No, he's also a very broken person in this movie too, which makes, he's supposed to be, he wears a bat costume, but he is definitely a very broken person in this movie.
I feel this is the first one that really focused on his, like you say, his brokenness, right? Because I felt that the Dark Knight tried to make him look too cool. I think Bat Flag was far past it, really. Like Bat Flag was good, but I felt that he went past like being a symbol for hope, isn't it? Like being a hero. into whatever it was in BVS lah. But yeah, so yeah, the Batman good overall good. How was it? It understands why we love it. You know, I don't want to see a put together Batman. I don't want to see a cool Batman. Batman should be weird.
Yes. Yep, that's exactly right. Well, we've now obliged our Holy Happy Hour Batman quota for this week. I feel like no, but that does kind of lead us into. We could talk about Lumen Ryder Core based, because that's it's sort of a superhero transition, right? Maybe not the smoothest transition, but for folks who don't know, Sam designed a game called Lumen Ryder Core. Is Lumen Ryder Core actually finished? I know it's backed. It was backed very successfully on itch. Is the game fully finished?
The game is 95% finished.
Okay.
In terms of the actual game itself, the issue here, and one issue that we're having is sort of like artist timelines, because the artist for Lumen Ryder Core is kind of held up at this point in time. So so that's gonna be delayed. I'm hoping to get like the finished system document out soon, and then it's gonna be edited. But apart from that, we also have Lumen Ryder Austin, Lumen Ryder Capitalites, and Lumen Ryder D&D. The first D stands for Duns, again, not Dungeons. And so I'm gonna get like an actual dance teacher to help me out draft out some moves.
Really?
Yeah. So it's gonna be great combat for Lumen Ryder Austin. Lumen Ryder D&D. But I don't want to talk too much about that right now because it's still up in the air.
Sure.
One thing that would be interesting to you would be Lumen Ryder Capitalites. So basically what's going to happen is that Lumen Ryder Core will have the basic system, not too many mods. It is sort of like very beginner friendly. And then later on, Lumen Ryder Capitalites, Lumen Ryder Austin will have a lot more complex mechanics. Hopefully not too complex. I'll need to play test them out. But yeah. Lumen Ryder Capitalites, it's a Southeast Asian gnostic Christian horror. Yeah, that's how I can pitch it at this point in time.
Okay, so what does that mean to you for it to be like gnostic Christian horror? What does that parse that out a little bit for us?
All right, so the lore. Okay, so you know Capitalites. Capitalites,
yeah.
The game is about. It's just a one-to-one recreation of Southeast Asian, specifically Southeast Asian in privileged English-speaking communities of young adults. So we have 21. We have fast-tracking production right now. It's going to be out completely very soon. So yeah, 21 different types of young adults or Asian young adults. You have a girl who doesn't know what she wants. You have a prude Christian who doesn't engage in any like sick stuff. Then you got people who just want sex. You got people who sort of like follow leftist movements with the intention of being for clout. You got people who are hot. You got hot people who sort of exist in a bubble, but that bubble also means that they're exposed to a lot of fetishism. It's a whole thing, though. I guess it's not very relevant to you if you're not urban Asian, which is fair. I mean, it's not made for like older white people.
Sure. I know. I think it still could be very interesting to. I don't know. I still think I still think it could be interesting. Maybe in a different way. Interesting. Yeah.
I'm very curious to see how non people outside the demographic perceive the game. I'm not sure how that works, but yeah, yeah. It's not something where I can be like, oh, white people can't play this. No, like absolutely you can play this. There is a white character, but it's more like how does the Asianness translate or not translate? That's what I'm interested in. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious. Like, it does make me wonder. Like you were saying, yeah, like how much does it translate? I guess it really just depends on sort of like how much social and cultural awareness you need to the context to like really appreciate it. And my gut instinct would be that you don't. I don't know. Like, it probably depends on the design, right? But like, I'm just
Yeah,
thinking about the fact that I've run Pasión de los Pasiones with a bunch of people who probably don't watch many shows in that genre, and yet they still can kind of get the game and get pulled into the game because the game invites them in. So
yeah,
I think it's probably about the design, right?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's not really. I mean, to sort of like move things to the Lumen Rider side, it's not really about race. Like Capitalites is
Yeah,
not about race. It's
right.
about class, isn't it? It's about gender. And if you know rich people, and
Exactly.
if you know gender, then this should be interesting. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean those things tend to transcend if they tell stories about the human experience, they transcend the immediate social,
yeah.
I mean, what's it called? Got so popular in the United States. What's the name? Oh my gosh, what's the name of the show that was on Netflix that everyone was talking about from South Korea?
Which one? Which one? Squid Game?
Squid Game,
Is that the
yeah.
one?
Yeah, like
Yeah,
Squid
yeah,
Game is
yeah,
obviously pretty heavily socially located in commentary in South
very
Korean
Korean.
culture. But
Yeah,
like, look at how popular it was in the United States, and I think it's because it spoke to people here even transcending,
yeah. Yeah,
that.
wherever you have people affected by capitalism,
Yeah.
people like Squid Game. Well, that and it started out fun, and it didn't become then became very not fun later on.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. So
Because
tell us about Lumen Ryder Capitalites. Like tell us about blending those things together.
so I guess Lumen Ryder applies. It takes the 21 archetypes, turns them into a major arcana tarot system. So like different characters have a different tarot card to them. You combine these cards together to make weapons. That's the most surface level form. Uh, in the lore itself, where this Gnosticism thing comes from. Um, Basically, in the lore, when the devil fell from heaven, he was split into morning star shards, okay, which entered the hearts and souls of every human being alive, and every human being has a piece of the devil inside of them. And so what happens is that this corporation, it starts it starts like using apps for like capitalistic domination. What happens is it takes these apps and it accidentally awakens these morning star shards in people, which creates monsters based off your desire and your desire to sin, basically. So let's say the player who is very promiscuous, very manipulative dude, who prides himself on like having sex. His kaijin, his monster which he creates will sort of like represent that lust he has. So like the Lumen Riders themselves also humans and given the sin. They have these belts which allow them to take the shards and use it in a productive way to fight monsters. But they themselves can produce kaijin. That's the that's the short of it. Yeah,
That's so freaking interesting. And also like
yeah.
as you said, such a real Gnostic concept.
Mm.
Where did the inspiration for that come from? Uh yeah.
I don't know. It's like, how do I make? I guess I was shit posting, right? I was like, how do I want to do Lumen Rider Capitalites. How do I make this into a tokusatsu, into a Japanese inspired tokusatsu game?
Yeah.
Make it ridiculous, but also take it extremely seriously. How do I take it? How do I be very sincere about it, right?
Mm,
And it's like, I like the idea that Christianity has been such a predominant thing in Southeast Asia, especially in the communities I grew up in. You kind of escape its influence. You kind of, especially, and not just like, I think one thing which games which want to talk about religion don't talk about is the contemporariness, contemporary side of Christianity. Because most of the time you're basically talking more criticizing the more fascist parts. You're criticizing the history of the Crusades and the Vatican and all that. But what people don't criticize a lot is, stuff like Hillsongs, Planet Shakers, or even like the televangelists in the US, right? So like, because it's such a predominant thing, and because Capitalites has to do with human flaws, Capitalites has to do with human growth. If you put those things together and you think, okay, I mean, it somehow disposed together, like it just somehow works. That's the great thing about Lumen Ryder. You can take very weird concepts, smash them together, and because you believe in them, you're so earnestly into those concepts that they somehow work in play itself. So you can have like dinosaur musicians and you can have dinosaurs in Jane Austen and it will work. For some reason, it just works. Yeah.
Do you think do you attribute that to, I guess, what do you attribute that to, if anything, like the fact that you can smash those things together and somehow it works?
I think one idea I had for a long time was like, nothing doesn't work. No weird idea doesn't work. It just matters how you execute it,
Yeah.
Like I think that's my whole thing, right? That's my whole thing as a designer. Because I take ideas which you would initially think that doesn't work. Then because I'm egotistical and arrogant enough, I can push forward to a point where I'm confident that it works. I think that's the same thing with Capitalites. Who wants to play just normal people in a game? Not even like passion, passion is, level, not that level of soap operaness. No, they're just normal people. How do you make that interesting? There's Horse Girl, which is the game about a woman being transformed into a horse by her lover. Like, like that sounds very that sounds just normal exploitation horror, but I used it to talk about how you love, how like love can be misused to sort of like turn you into someone you don't want to be, and how you give into someone else just because you want to feel safe and secure. Which is, I wrote it for a friend and she was like, holy shit, yeah, this is me. Like I relate to this. A lot of people related to it, even though it was an exploitation horror game. Yeah. So yeah, it's possible. Anything's possible, I feel. Oh, you're muted. You're muted. No.
Oh, I got it. Oops. Yeah, I actually, so I totally think that actually, I think that's 100% true. I've come recently to start believing, I don't know what you think about this, but that actually the things I'm most interested in with games design that I see are some of the more outlandish ideas that people are bold enough to run with. You know what I mean? When I see real out there ideas for setting and concept, like this is the time to do that in ttrpgs, right? Like, man, the scene's blowing up, like this is the time, come up with crazy ideas. But yeah, it's about execution, right? Like, whether the game's good or bad is not going to be about how wild the concept is. It's going to be, how well the system works, how well the game works, system wise. And so like, yeah, I feel like, to me right now, it's like I love the games I see with the more outlandish concepts. When I see something crazy, I'm like, man, wish I could think of something that crazy, something that's outside the box. I don't know. That's kind of where I've been thinking lately.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely. I think it's possible for everyone. I don't know. Yeah, definitely. You should just let yourself go.
Let yourself go.
Stop carrying.
Yeah.
Just take that A24 mindset. Not even the A24 mindset. Just take that self-indulgent mindset. You just roll with it. I feel. Yeah, because yeah.
Well, so the other thing I was going to say before was about Lumen itself as a system. I think that is a huge part of like what makes it work, even if it's an outrageous concept, or even if you're smashing together things that seem like they shouldn't get smashed together. Lumen itself, I think, I don't know. Tell me, what do you think? How has it been working with Lumen? Like, what do you think about Spencer's sort of base hardware?
I think the base hardware is solid. If you're looking for something which is a lot more complex, okay, one thing which I've learned is designing, right, and playtesting it with. I've been playtesting it at least once a week with my gang. Um, Accessibility, complexity, it goes without saying, but complexity comes at the cost of accessibility. And Lumen is supposed to be accessible. Lumen is supposed to be what it's supposed to be what non-ttrpg players imagine when they think of an RPG. Because if you give them Pathfinder, right, when you say let's play Lord of the Rings and you give them Pathfinder, that's not gonna work. You know, they're gonna be overwhelmed. They're gonna be consumed by it. Whereas if you give them somewhat of Lumen equivalent, they will be able to like be encouraged to generate more creative approaches to combat, more narrative. I think that's the strength of Lumen. I think does that quite well. Yeah, maybe you can criticize it and say it can be a bit too easy sometimes, depending on how it's designed. But sometimes that's the point. You know, it's not meant to be difficult. It's meant to be fun.
Yeah. And like empowering, right? Like, I mean, the whole thing that is like giving you that experience of being super ridiculously powerful. I mean, it's how a genre like Lumen Ryder works, right? Like you have to feel super powerful to be in that genre.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I don't see how we can go any other way.
Yeah.
But I've added a lot more. I think this is one of the more complex Lumen games because I deal a lot of range. There are a lot of specific powers you can have. There's a lot to it in the core game itself. So like I do want that there is a bit of a strategic element. I can tell you that PvP is fantastic in the game.
Really?
Yeah, it is fantastic. Yeah.
Have you had a lot of PvP in your playtest games?
Absolutely, yeah. Because me and my friend are just like we're just building our OCs in Lumen Ryder and just having them fight each other.
Oh, that's so cool.
It's like playing Street Fighter, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a cool way to play the game. I didn't even think about that. You could just like totally put like you said your OCs in and just have them battle it out like you're playing freaking Street Fighter. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
And the character customization is quite broad as well. I mean, is it in depth? It's very in depth for a Lumen game. But if you really want an in depth game, go play 4E or something like. But
you just
if you want to know,
you just blew my mind because now I'm thinking about the fact that is a completely underutilized space in TTRPGs, which is like playing games the way you play like Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat with your friends, and you just slap your two character sheets down on the table and you battle it out.
Yeah.
Like that is an underutilized space in TTRPGs. I don't really know it.
Used?
Yeah, I don't know anybody I don't know. Is it you? I feel like this blew my mind. Like I feel like that I now want to design something like that just for that purpose.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm not sure about the PvP aspect, but I know Nick Butler, Tiebreaker RPG.
Okay. Oh yeah,
Tiebreaker RPG. Like Nick uses a lot of like fighting game. He's really into that, so like he uses a lot of that in his work. I'm not sure whether there is PvP yet, but I'm definitely, if you want to look at like fighting game style, all that kind of stuff, do look at Tiebreaker. I think they released a design kit for it.
Oh yeah, I backed Tiebreaker. I'll be honest, I backed Tiebreaker with the full intention of like checking it out for some of the streaming content I do, some of the like, and just didn't get too deep into it yet, as much as which happens to me when I back a lot of Kickstarters and a lot of other, I shouldn't say just exclusively Kickstarters, but like crowdfunded campaigns. Is like backing them, getting the content, and then it's always a question of how deep into the content I end up getting. But but it's always important to support creators anyway. So I don't feel bad about doing that, about supporting creators, even if I don't end up playing the games. Tiebreaker was one I definitely wanted to check out because like the pitch was solid. It sounded like it was a blast. It seems like it's really fun. I'm actually in that Discord too, and I just haven't really played it too much. Um, but yeah. So yeah, that boom that this conversation blew my mind a little bit about underutilized territory in the ttrpg space.
Yeah. I might be shifting enemy design to being more PvP esque rather than PvE.
Okay.
So as a GM, you can be building different monsters and using them to fight rather than just using rather than just like building them to die. You can build them as actual characters. That's one thing I'm toying with right now. If not in the base game, maybe in the future expansion, because it should be fun for the GM, isn't it? It should be fun for the GM. Yeah,
that's one of the things. I mean, that's a really good point. It should be fun for the GM, and I wonder what that looks like because I think you're right. I think it's building them to die is like most villain and monster building is building them to die.
To kill your players, yeah.
That's or to kill your players. I feel like Masks is a really good example of that, where like Masks really doesn't do that, and like really it builds them for complicated social interactions, perhaps, or tense moments, and it can feel pretty awesome. It can feel pretty awesome. So
yes,
yeah.
I love that genre. I love that genre of social fantasy games where the setting is fantastical, but the application is, but the actual playing out is more dramatic. Yeah.
Me too. Yeah, where it's really about the human drama, and it's like, but the setting is very fantastical. That's the good stuff right there. Yeah. That's the good stuff.
I'm actually working on a unofficial spiritual sequel to Mars. Called Super Zeros. I'll pitch it to you. I think this is the easiest game for me to pitch to you. All right,
pitch it.
Imagine Mars, but you're all, but it's 10 years later, all of you have grown up, found your moment of truth, but you still have to live as a hero and as an adult. So what happens is that, the team has fallen apart, everybody's gone their separate ways, and now you're coming back together. What happens now?
I love
what happens? Yeah.
I love that. So the game that we're itch funding this week, the Hard Lessons, it's a one shot, but it's sort of that idea, right? Like we played it last night. My Delinquent Comics cast and I played it last night, and it was basically like they were proteges of a superhero, and they came back years later. And they kind of knew each other. They knew of each other, but they were never proteges at the same time. And they were like sharing their experiences of the, of the hero that trained them up. But it's a one-shot experience. But it is kind of that idea, right? Like it's like, you were the young sidekick superheroes. You were the teen superheroes, full of excitement. But now you're kind of like, 10 years later. It's kind of like, I don't know. Part of me thinks it needs to take place when you're in your 30s, though. As somebody in his 30s, I feel like that's really when you get into that, like, man, the shine of youth has worn off.
I feel like I feel like I'm getting there. I'm only 25. I feel like I'm getting there.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's something about like Chinese kids having to grow up faster. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's very it's well, I bet that is super culturally dependent, honestly. Like what is coming of age in a culture, like what is expected of people and youth in a culture, and the United States gives a lot of permissibility to people to continue to be children well into their 30s, honestly, like maybe even forever.
Well, I can sort of vibe that, like my friend was in Europe. And like, at my age, like me and my friends are not really into clubbing or any of that anymore.
Sure.
But like these white kids, like they're living like it's like they're still in like college. You know what I mean? Like they have jobs, but they're still living that lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's like holy shit.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
You white kids getting up to stuff. You coming to my country and you're getting shit faced drunk. Come on.
Yeah.
But yeah. Hard lessons, that's a one shot, right? You should send that to me.
Oh, I will.
It sounds like my shit.
Oh man, I would love to. Yeah, we'll talk about it after. Talk about it after the show. I'll send it to you for sure. Well, listen, before we get too far here into time, I want to get into your backstory. I want to know, because I want to talk about a couple of things. I want to hear your ttrpg backstory, but then I also want to talk about religion. So I want to talk about like you said that you cannot escape Christianity in your part of Southeast Asia. So I want to dig into both of those things. I don't know whether it's better to start with the Christian experience or with the ttrpg backstory. So
wow. TTRPG backstory, I feel that that's not the most interesting.
Okay, sure.
It's like I just ran into some D&D people back when I was like back in 2015, 16.
Okay.
Actually 15 or 16, I don't know.
So like 7 years ago or so.
Wow. Was it 7 years ago? Shit, I don't remember.
Yeah, we had a pandemic, so that's warped all of time.
Okay, so hold on. Okay, so basically I went to some D&D people. I started making my own stuff. I wanted to get into indie games. D&D people didn't like it, so I went over to other stuff. And now I went to Twitter, started making stuff. Ran to other Southeast Asian people. Yeah, that's more or less it. I mean, there's not much. I don't know. Should there be some? I mean, there's no trauma, not that kind of trauma, lah. But there's no like, wow, I realized that this was my shit, because I always knew this was my thing.
Sure.
I always knew that role playing is my thing. I just didn't expect myself to be getting to this point, where I'm like making it for as part of my career.
Yeah.
But
what's
that?
That's
all. That's all thing.
I was gonna say, what's that like to be in that place you weren't expecting?
Horrible, scary. Because there's no certainty. There's no certainty in this industry. I only survived because of the exchange rate. Apart from that, if I have to move over to the US, I'm done. I have to get another job because because how it is,
Yeah.
It's hard when you're not in the US, and it's hard because when you're not into D&D, and it's I suppose like I suppose like being Chinese does add on to it as well, because there are only so many Chinese people in the TTRPG scene, and usually like if they want to do something big, it's usually the same few ones. If you get what I mean? Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I there is part, that's a lot of stuff we could dig into too, but let's put a pin in that, because I also wanted to talk, if we had time, about itchfunding and your experiences doing that.
Wow.
But hold that thought, because I want to get into kind of the other stuff we were dancing around. I want to talk about your so you already mentioned that you can't escape Christian influence in Southeast Asia. I think a lot of people in the US would be surprised to hear that, honestly. I feel like there's like really poor awareness of where Christians are in the world, and honestly where Muslims are in the world. I think people in North America, I think, have real stereotypical ideas of these things. So you want to talk a little bit about like how pervasive Christian culture is where you are?
I don't know if the Americans know this. Sorry, not even Americans. The people from the USA.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if the people from the USA know this, but there's this thing called colonialism.
Some people here know this. I probably will go out on a limb and say most people here do not live with an awareness of colonialism anymore, sadly. Sorry, go on. Go on.
I mean, yeah, you see, you on your end, you can live with the awareness, but for us, it's a normal thing.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah.
The point where, like, in Malaysia itself, English-speaking Christians is a sort of like a marker of class, because they usually tend to be privileged. They usually tend to be richer.
Yeah.
And And I tell you, the mega churches here, I mean, they're not like the mega churches in the US, but they are quite impressive here. Because we took a lot of stuff from Australia, Australian churches, Hillsongs and Planet Shakers. It's quite, the production value is quite high. Like, I don't go to that church. I go to a small house church with like a few people. But yeah, that's the thing which exists. That's the thing which is there. To a point where, like, let's say if you're dating in the city area and you sort of like hear like a certain person's from this church, this big church, you're like, okay, let's not go there. I'm trying to find a good way, a non problematic way to say it. Let's not you don't want to date that person because there are a lot of implications that come with dating someone from that church.
Interesting.
Yeah, because they'll try and pull you into their services. They'll try and pull you into the community. They'll try and make it. It's a very corporate. It's a very corporate way of doing it. That's where Lumen Ryder Capitalites is coming from. That sort of like corporate Christianity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it, which is to me exciting space to get into, like in design. Like I really am excited about seeing that played out. And there's not, like you said, there's not a lot of games that take that on.
Yeah. I think there's not a lot of media that takes it on.
That's true. That's true. There's that one show. There's the one show on HBO.
The family, right?
Yeah.
John Goodman.
Yes. What's the name of that show?
Yes.
Yeah, I can't think of it, but that takes it on, right? Like, and I watched like the first season of that. And I didn't. Yeah. So, but anyway, yeah, you're right. There's not a lot of, but like Hillsong. Although there's a Hillsong documentary now. I haven't watched it.
But about the abuse.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, I haven't. Well, because honestly, the reason why I haven't watched it, as much as like as much as it fascinates me, I'd rather see it in game design than I would in like a documentary. Like I don't really want to relish in the abuse parts of it. I know it's out there and it makes me sad and sick. So I don't need to like relish in the reality of it, but playing it in the fantasy space, yeah, I kind of do, you know, but anyway, sorry. You were so colonialism and how pervasive Christianity is.
No. I think a good way for us to approach this topic is like what I'm trying to do with my Christian games.
Yeah.
I mean, it should be obvious. They're not like big money makers, but I'm super glad they exist.
Because, I'm super glad they exist too. Yeah, sorry. Go.
Thank you. No, because like I feel like a lot of Christian media, they don't really get into like the meat of what this experience is like. A lot of it is very self-serving. It's very masturbatory.
Yeah.
Because it's always like, Jesus is so good. Like the whole God's not dead thing, where it's like, if you're an atheist, you will die, and we're against the system, and then God can solve all the issues in your life. That's not really the case. Becoming Christian doesn't make things easier. I think it makes things harder. I think that there's a lot of like pain you have to sift through. It's not a band-aid. It's more like surgery. Trying to use faith to address your life issues. I feel I'm not really qualified to like. I mean, my qualification is that I've lived it, but that's about it. I can't really tell you what to do, what to think, or what's good for you. But what I do know is that through my games, I can sort of like talk about what's important to me, which is like all this complicated stuff. The idea of being a bad Christian, right? There's no such thing. Biblically, there's no such thing, but we all think there's such a thing,
right? Yeah, no, that's exactly. Well, when did you decide like, oh, I couldn't design Christian games? Like how? Well, where did that come from?
I think I always wanted to do Christian stuff.
Yeah.
I'm still working on like Christian body horror, or even like queer Christian narratives. And I think it was just natural that I chose game design to do it.
Yeah.
I'm better at game design than I am at fiction writing, so it makes sense. Also, there's a thing about fiction versus game design, right? in fiction, oftentimes you're making statements, whereas in game design, you can get away with not knowing shit by having your game just be a list of questions, right? So
yeah.
you know,
It's so
like
true.
if I'm talking, if I'm making a game about trauma, I'm not a therapist. I'm just a guy. I'm just a person. If I'm making a game about trauma, I'm doing it in a way like, what do you think, or what is your experience? You know, I'm not saying, oh, this about trauma. I'm not making statements about your trauma or like the stuff you do to heal. I'm being like, I want to know how I can enable you to understand yourself better using stuff that helps me understand myself better. So the Christian games is a lot like that. You know, I'm not. Uh, I'm just trying to like work things out, and I hope that the stuff I make helps people work things out, like, even if it looks ugly as hell. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, so for folks who might not know watching this, like they are pretty intense. Like the game that I referenced in the cocktail, Wretched and Depraved. Yeah, do you want to give people the elevator pitch for Wretched and Depraved? I was giving my wife the elevator pitch for this at dinner, and she was like, wow, you know, sorry.
No, it's fine. Wow. Did she say anything else about it?
Well, she actually asked me, so she asked me, is he a pastor? And I was like, no. I was like, I think because if you like that was sort of my first reaction reading when I first read the description of Wretched and Depraved was reading it. I was at church in the church office. My this is a couple months ago, I guess, but my so one of my best friends for a long time since childhood, who's Blaine Martin. He's in games too. He does a podcast, a horror podcast, but he worked for the church until January. Moved on to other things in life. But he and I were like looking at the Christian games together, and we were in the church and we read that one, and it's just like oof, like it hits you. If you're a pastor, it hits you really hard, I think. Yeah, give people the elevator pitch in case they don't know what it is.
Yeah. Okay, so it's a solo journaling game where you play a church figure, a pastor, who has discovered that they are dying of cancer, and basically it's played with Jenga. The basic game is that you play with Jenga tower. So you draw a card, you roll dice, and then you draw cards, and each card will give you a prompt. The story goes that like you weren't so good to you were good to your church, but you're not good to your family.
Bingo.
In your lifetime. Yeah, so there are four people you need to find absolution with, or at least seek forgiveness from. Your child, your non-Christian sibling who left the church because of hypocrisy, your wife, and then your father. So these are four people you've wronged in your life, and you're trying to fix things as best as possible before you die of cancer.
It's so fucking real, man. So fucking real. It's like really intense.
I don't even want to play it.
Yeah. No, when I read it, I was like, it's honestly, it's so cool. Like I know that sounds weird maybe to people, given that like it's so dark, but like to me, I guess where the reason why I have that reaction of like, wow, that's so cool, is that it is just doing something, taking like these really serious and really real fucking things, and like inviting you to get in and play in that space and like experience those feelings and think through them, and think through the ethics of it. Like there's nothing sugarcoated about that at all, and it's like it's so real to people in ministry too. Like that is it, that right there. Like neglecting your family for church like is such a common issue, you know, among clergy, and then like to make it that visceral is just wow, just wow.
It's not it's I'm quite it's I don't know, it's kind of like I guess it's saying something which I think about, because my father, I grew up a lot in the church, right?
Yeah.
one grandfather is sort of like a church elder sort of, and then another one is a reverend, Methodist reverend. My my dad was a church elder, was a church elder. My mom was a worship leader. She actually does scripture songs, so she has a whole. She's actually more successful than me in her own indie scene because she has millions of views on songs she creates based on the Psalms.
Oh,
So
really?
she puts tunes to sound. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, please.
She millions of views. So I grew up in that environment.
Yeah.
Very, very like I have experiences with cults and sort of like a right wing Southeast Asian version of right wing Christianity. So it's like I guess for me, what I'm with Wretched and Depraved specifically, what I want to explore is the idea of like, what's the point of righteousness if you're not good to people around you, right?
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of good people who are good at following, the letter of law, but they're shit people in real life.
Yeah.
They're shit to deal with. They're good people, but they're shit to deal with. I'm like, what's the point? For me, what's the point?
Yeah. So I'm curious, like, having grown up around a lot of, like, right wing versions of Christianity, how did you end up discovering, like, a left wing, or maybe that's not a fair way to put it, an alternative to right wing Christianity, like a more,
It's kind of like it's quite interesting, right? I guess the only way to survive, right, in growing up in that generation is to either stick with it wholeheartedly or you question it and then you go to the other side. The whole right wing, left wing thing, I think it's reductive, but like it's a very US centric way of putting things. But I think it works for this situation, because if you want to talk about binary, there's that whole like hegemony of like traditional Christianity, what people expect, and then there's like what we can do to like move forward and make things better. I guess an example for you is even it's the small things, right? Because body shaming is a big thing in Christian communities.
Yeah.
You have all these aunties, you have all these like older Christian women body shaming the younger ones. It's very like normal and it's not questioned. People just run with it because they're old. But then again, like if you actually apply what the Bible is saying, it's like you kind of shouldn't be doing that. There are a lot of things we excuse. There are a lot of like sins we excuse because they're culturally acceptable. So my thinking is like, just throw that out. Just like that. Does like that. Just like, what's the point of doing things? Saying you want to do things right, but you're not actually doing them right because you're so used to doing it wrong. Everybody's used to body shaming. Everybody's used to like pulling in legalities into the church, like suing people, suing other pastors, the kind of thing. Like that's the thing which happens here. It's like that's not biblical, right? So why not that's not helpful. So why not try something else? But doing that also means like stepping away from like the church system as a whole and finding faith on your own terms, which is tough. But it's also like I don't know how else to do it now. It's the whole thing.
Are there alternative to conservative Christianity in like where you are? Like, are there, like, is that
there's corporate Christianity.
Yeah.
The mega churches I mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's actually a thing here, because like Planet Shakers, they have like the whole Kingdom City thing.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's now a controversy now in Malaysia because that church is slowly taking over. Like people are leaving the older churches to go to the newer churches, the more hip churches. So like there's a lot of resentment there. The pew stealing and all that. And Kingdom City is quite smart about it because like they know how to like. It's structured a lot like an MLM. Multi-level marketing.
Yeah.
So they have their little connects, their little small groups, and then they have a larger service, and then like the larger service is split up into different things, and then they have a hierarchy, and and it's quite easy for any youth to be part of the hierarchy, you know, like, to be a leader. So there are issues of like they're very okay. Kingdom City has a very good legal team, so I need to choose my words very carefully next. But basically, there are like rumors, rumors of abuse happening.
Gotcha.
Anecdotal, and like it's because of, and part of that is because of like how easily certain people can become parts of leadership. And that's something we live under. Like, it doesn't mean that people that are bad. I think most of the people there are quite good because I got friends there, but it's more like the structure is not the best, you know, and that's something. But then again, if we have no structure, then that's where you get cults.
Yeah.
And I've also seen that happen, you know, like firsthand, so like that's
yeah,
that's
that's an interesting point because like there is like big corporate mega churches, very capitalistic churches have their own sets of problems, right? They have their own traps that get into where have their own issues. But like I have also seen house churches, small churches have their own problems. They have different problems, but
Absolutely.
those are dangerous because they can. So the big corporate churches are dangerous for a lot of reasons because they can end up sustaining abuse in a corporate structure where the structure protects abusers and encourages a system of like idolizing the people at the top and all kinds of other things. The house church, small church, where it can be dangerous. And I'm being careful to say can be dangerous because I don't want to imply that these things are always dangerous, but can be dangerous because it can become very cultish. It can go off the rails very easily. Yeah. People can get swept away into it very quickly. And then there's not safeguards that a lot of times an organization puts on that kind of environment. So I've seen both of those go, very badly.
Yeah. I think house churches also can be spaces for abuse as well.
Yeah. That's true. Because you can hide in the sort of the intimacy, I guess, produces the space for abuse.
Yeah. So I mean, to be very frank, I've seen both things happen from both sides.
Yeah.
And always it's like, again, that's where like stuff like Bad Christian and Wretched and Depraved comes from, right? Because like what does it mean to be a good believer? Obviously, we know what the Bible says. It's like a matter of faith, right? It's a matter of faith, and we, as a matter of faith, showing grace, working things out. But at the same time, it's like it's not easy to do in real life because I'm a bit of a shithead, lah. You know what I mean? I'm not like I try my best, but I don't fit within like the idea of like what is a good Christian. I'm not perfect, you know what I mean? I have temptations and all that, but I'm open about it, you know what I mean? I try my best to be frank about it. I don't like it's preferable, and I try my best to keep my personal relationships healthy. I try my best with that. And it's like, I guess it's a very different mindset from like doing stuff like reading the Bible every day, or giving a certain amount of charity, or doing all those by the book Christian things, good Christian things, because that doesn't make you a good person. Actually, okay, I was 11 years old. I got into all this charismatic Christianity, all this intercessorship prayer. But I go into that. I was very good at it. I was very good at praying and reading the Bible, but that didn't turn me into a good kid. That didn't turn me into a good person. I think at that age, it wasn't very healthy for me. My friendships weren't that good. My relationships weren't that good. As a teenager, and it's like how to put it? All that stuff, right, which you do to draw yourself closer to God, it doesn't make you a better person.
Yeah.
So why the fuck do it?
No, I 100% hear that. My experience, I had experiences with charismatic Christianity when I was a teenager, and in small church environment, and with charismatic Christianity. And for me, I think that being good at the prayer, being good at the. For me, it was performative to some degree.
Mm.
I want to say that it was. I think when I look back on it, I would say that there was a level of ego stoking to it, where like it felt really good to be
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
acknowledged for being good at it, and that there is also a performative and sort of ego stoking nature to appearing righteous,
Yeah,
appearing like a good person. But
yeah,
that's why I like the idea of your game Bad Christian, because like when I look back at that period of time, it's 100% like that idea of like having these sort of secret desires and sort of secret sinful behavior that like I 100% dealt with, and struggled with, but needed to keep quiet to the performative aspects of Christianity.
yeah,
Needing to continue to have a particular way of appearing in the community because
yeah,
like it stoked my ego to
yeah,
like appear a certain way in the community.
yeah, yeah. That's the thing, though. I have this perception, this ideal that, like, in terms of Christianity, if I'm running a space or something, I want it to be raw. I want it to be honest.
Yeah,
I don't want you to feel as if you can't talk about what you're struggling with. And most of the time, people don't talk about what they're struggling with because it'll be seen as like, oh, and then you bring up the whole queer angle, right? It's like you can, oh,
yeah,
you can't talk about being gay or whatever because people look at you differently and all that kind of thing. It's it's like it's a very like it's a very like I like to say this a lot, but like good intent. It's built on good intentions, but it's quite harmful.
yeah,
Um, yeah,
yeah.
good intentions don't mean it's good.
Yes, yeah, seriously.
Oh man.
And it's worth saying. I want to say this because I don't want to. I feel like I have to say this as a way of being accountable, which
Hmm.
is that systems like the one that I'm currently a priest in and a clergy person
Mm.
in, or even like Roman Catholic, like we also struggle with these things of abuse and with all this stuff too. Like
Hmm.
I feel like I need to say that to hold myself accountable. I certainly am not under the impression that we are, free of these problems. We're certainly not. And especially, like I think most people are aware that, systems like mine that are denominational
Mm.
structures can cover up abuse by hiding
Yeah, yeah,
people in the system. So,
yeah,
unfortunately, so I was just saying that for viewers to know, like, I by no means think that my version of Christianity is somehow
yeah,
immune from all these issues that we're talking about. It can
yeah,
happen in its own way in any version of Christianity,
yeah,
honestly.
yeah. I don't think we can escape issues. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? We're gonna escape it. There'll always be people who I guess I struggled with a lot of a long time, right? A lot of anger, a lot of all that. But then eventually, for me, it was very humbling. In the sense that like I don't know, I can't. Who am I to say? Who am I to say like what version of Christianity is good or bad? I can't. I'm not in their place. I'm just a guy. I'm just trying my best, and I can't judge. You know, I guess there's a whole thing, right? You have to unlearn as a Christian, which
Mm.
is like not to judge, not even judge yourself.
Mm.
Just kind of like I'm trying, I'm growing. I think that's enough. Not enough, but it's like it's a good mindset to have.
Yeah.
Um, whereas like I don't know, like, it's like you have to unlearn giving appraising value to things.
Yeah.
Um, it reminds me of Job, right? Because the whole point about Job is that he was such a wise, righteous person. But at the end of the day, no matter how wise or righteous he was, he didn't know shit. He didn't know anything. That was the point. Like God comes in at the end and goes like, yeah, yeah, you're right, but you still don't know anything. You're just a guy,
Yeah.
you know. So that's my mindset.
You're just, oh man, a Job. Maybe you already kind of did this with like Bad Christian, but I was gonna say a Job ttrpg would be really powerful, or like getting into that same space, the idea of encountering God, where God just basically says like, So who do you think you are? Like, what are you
Yeah.
compared to me? Like, that's such an
Yeah.
interesting spiritual space.
That'll be horrible though. Imagine that you just suffer for like the whole game, and you're like, aha, you suffered, you don't know why, and you and yeah, your goodness is pointless, aha, and the game ends.
I love.
That's I don't know how the hell am I what
It's certainly dark. That's what I find very interesting about it. I don't know.
yeah.
Um, so I wanted to say also, as far as your other Christian game, Sorry God, um, I just wanted to say the one thing I like about that game is that you can one of the things you can do is blaspheme at your creator. And so like one of the things I like that about that is because I think people have this impression that Christians can't do stuff like that, or that Christians can't like get mad at their God or
Yeah.
something. And in fact, it's
Yeah.
quite the opposite. That like Scripture, like in fact,
Yeah.
encourages you to do that because I mean, like,
Yeah.
God can take it. So it's actually
Yeah.
healthy to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the whole thing, isn't it, right? Because if you do express doubt or you do stuff like that in certain circles, it's like, oh, you're not showing faith. But isn't it? Yeah, but it's true, right? In the Bible, like I guess arguing God, at least wrestling God is it's an act of faith, isn't it?
Yeah,
I always refer back to the idea of like Jacob wrestling the angel in the desert.
exactly.
Basically it's like you're beating the shit out of God just so that he'll bless you. I like to have the idea.
Yeah,
Um
yeah.
that's like, yeah.
That's the perfect
Even
analogy. No, that's the
yeah,
perfect analogy for these Christian games that you've designed. I think that's the perfect. Like
yeah.
that's you just hit on it in a way that I hadn't thought of yet, which is that that's what they feel like. They feel like
Yeah.
wrestling with God, and that's
Yeah.
what you want, right? Like that's what makes them.
Yeah.
That's kind of what makes them okay, even if they push the envelope, even if they like dance
Yeah.
around the edges. Like that's actually what wrestling with God is, right? It's like dancing on the
Yeah.
margins, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's very like, hmm. I guess yeah. I guess when we do talk about this, I don't want to put myself in a position where like I am in any way like qualified to talk about like Christian faith things, because I am still working out, and that's what these games are. It's a
Right.
working out. It's a wrestling. It's a coming to terms with things. Like people always ask us like, why does God allow suffering in the world? Or like why is it then there's a whole queer Christian angle. It's like
Yeah.
um I don't you can ask me these questions honestly, I don't know. Um I'll let you know if I publish a game about it. But like
Yeah.
but yeah, it's just I don't have any brilliant ideas to share with you. It's just me uh it's just me working shit out.
There you go. Yeah, that's
I
what wrestling with God is, right? We're just
yeah,
like a regular
yeah,
person working shit
yeah,
out, like
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
God, if the story of Jacob isn't that, right? If the story of Jacob
yeah.
isn't just some guy working shit out, like because he didn't know what the fuck he was doing. I feel like
I
he
don't
was
think any of them did.
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
None of them did. Abraham had no idea what he was working for. He
yeah,
believed, but he just then I guess even David, he didn't know what he was doing.
yeah.
Um yeah. Paul didn't know what he was doing. Nobody knew what they were doing. The whole Bible, nobody knew what they were doing.
Exactly. I just heard a Taika Waititi quote where he said something like, when he turned 40, he realized that nobody knows what they're doing and everyone's just winging
Yeah,
it. And I feel like that is true to life right there. Like that's everybody.
yeah.
Everyone, no one knows what they're doing. So I am
Yeah.
wondering, do you think you'll design more Christian games in the future?
But we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see. I don't. I guess the next step for me is Lumen Ryder Capitalites, right?
I guess
It's
that
not
is
just like,
will you count that does that count as a Christian game?
I guess. Yeah, why not? Why not?
Why not? There you go.
Why
Yeah.
not? It's just the wrestling with God is a very different thing. Because it's Gnosticism, it's not. It's like a perverted form of Christianity.
Right.
But it's like, why can't punching monsters be kind of like wrestling with your own sense of like sin? You know what I mean? um, and what does sin mean for you personally.
Yeah.
You know? So I think that's an interesting space to explore. Capitalites, I feel, is a Christian game. If you want to play it that way, because there's one playbook called Hypocrite, where you're a church leader, and you you have all you're trying your Sunday life is not it's not it's not the same as your everyday life. You know what I mean? Like you're going out partying, having sex, and doing drugs, and you're in church. You're this holy guy.
Oh man, that's such a
yeah.
I want to play that character so badly.
Yeah. I will show you the character art for it later.
Okay.
I don't want to show it now because
sure
undergoing review, but like, I'll show it to you later. It's
perfect. Well, yeah. So this reminds me that one thing I'm writing right now is so I wrote a game called Bizlandia, which is a Questlandia 1 hack, or uses the Questlandia 1 SRD, and it's basically a corporate. It's like The Office, but a ttrpg. So it's like a workplace comedy game. But I'm writing like modules for it, or like play sets for it. And I don't know why it took me a while to realize I needed to do this, but I realized that I needed to write Churchlandia, the like mega church playset for it, where you like play people who work at a mega church, and it's led by a super charismatic. I know, it's led by a super charismatic, leader who's awful, and you're all just like trying to survive working for this like awful mega church. And it's like a comedy. So I'm writing that right now, and I'm pretty excited about it.
I want to read that, but I don't want to play that. If that makes sense.
It makes sense. Well, yeah. Eventually, when I'm done, I have to. I have too many projects. I think you can appreciate this. I have too many projects at once. That's the problem. It's like one thing at a time.
Yeah, that's everybody. That's all of us. It actually helps to stave off burnout, I feel. Yeah. Because like you work on one before you can burn out on that project, you just switch to the next one. That's actually quite good. I find that works. That works really well.
Yeah. Oh, so I did want to talk about itchfunding a little bit. So because this is a little bit self-serving because we're itchfunding a game starting this week. No, I just tell us about your experience with itchfunding and why you chose itch as like the funding platform for Lumen Ryder, and like just how was it?
I chose itch because I don't have much of a choice.
Okay.
Yeah, even if I do go to Kickstarter, it's not gonna look very good for me. I can't afford the negative publicity. You know what I mean? Because of the whole crypto thing.
Yeah.
But so I also wanted to try it on my own because each funding you get to do things on your own terms.
You can, yeah.
But it's a pain in the ass a lot of the time because it's not built for it. So you really have to bend over backwards the systems. Like the worst part I feel, raising money is fine. It's the stretch goals and tier goals which is horrible because people. I made a mistake. Let me tell you about all the mistakes I made.
Sure.
I put separate. Okay, so if you want the full game, you have to pay $15 USD. But you can get it through the reward section, or you can get it by paying $50 USD in total. For the basics, buying the game. The problem is now that if you want the documents for the full game and you use the reward system, I have to specifically make a whole list for you just so you can get it. Though I send it to you manually itself automatically. You know what I mean? Because using each as like, if you pay more than $15 USD, you get this. You pay more than $20 USD, you get this. So that's a faster system on your end. Like, instead of using rewards. But rewards has the advantage of being specific in like, if you want this but you don't want this, then get this reward. So it's like, if there was a way to integrate these two functions together, it would be perfect. But it's not. So one thing which I did was that I used both, which is a pain in the ass for me. But at the same time, it's also like, it's good because I get to do certain I get to communicate and do certain things with rewards rather than just having them, pay. It's a whole. It's So really, I guess my thoughts is, if I were to do it again, I would have to pick one.
Okay.
I have to pick one, but I also have to acknowledge that, like, doing one method will not have will have something that the other one doesn't, and vice versa.
Right.
Would I recommend it? I think it's worth a shot. It's painful, but I've learned a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. As I've been thinking a lot about, not for this game, but for like my game Broken, the 2-player tragic romance game, about how I'm going to fund that. And I've gone back and forth. So my poor wife has listened to me endlessly go back and forth about, should I use itch funding for a digital release and then maybe later consider using a different platform for a physical release.
Yeah.
Should I just go right to like a platform like Kickstarter right from the beginning? Should I itch fund and she's heard me go this loop of like pros and cons over and over and over and over, where like I just drive myself nuts thinking about it and being unsure what the best way to do it is. And my point of saying all that, I think, is to say that for people in the scene right now, indie ttrpg creators, it's kind of a tough environment for deciding what platform to use to fund your project, because itch isn't perfect. Kickstarter has a lot of disadvantages that we could talk about, that and stuff that has to do with the blockchain and stuff that has to do with like acceptance in the industry and things like that. So I don't know. It's a little bit, there's no like perfect platform.
Yeah. but you've chosen itch funding, right? You sort of settled on that.
So we are using itch funding for the hard lessons. That's set. We're doing that starting on Thursday. Okay. That's definite. It's for my other game for Broken that I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to fund with that yet. I've pretty settled on doing itch funding, at least for a digital version. But I haven't made all those decisions yet. And then there's do you feel like there's still stigma? Because I feel like when I tell people like we're going to itch fund, I'm thinking about itch funding Broken, they're kind of like people's reaction is still a little bit like, oh, okay, I see you're itch funding it. Like it's as if that's like a lesser tier than like a Kickstarter. Like, do you feel like there's a stigma? Maybe I'm making it up, but I feel like I've heard people, the way I've talked to people about it is like almost like they like, oh, that's interesting. That's quaint. It's funny.
I mean, I've talked to people in the design space. I don't really feel that. Are those people like not from design spaces?
No, they kind of are. Again, it could be projection. It could be me projecting it. I might be 100% making it up.
Yeah. I guess, true. I guess for me, because I don't have a choice, I don't really think about it. It is true that it's not as popular as Kickstarter.
Right.
But, I guess, I get, the way I see it, if, I guess for hard lessons and Broken, right? They're not like sprawling games. They're not Avatar Legends.
No, they're not Avatar Legends, no.
Well, I think it'll be fine.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
Well, there is a huge amount of this, which is me overthinking everything. That's definitely, let's just say this is 80% overthinking, 20% actual wrestling.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. And
it's you want to connect your game to as many people as you can. You want to find people who you think would like your game. That's how I feel about it.
Oh, that's every game designer's worry. Yeah. That's holy shit.
Yeah.
It's all our worries, isn't it? Because we don't want to release something and then have it turn out to be nothing, isn't it? We don't want to. Well, we can't control that.
Yeah.
As much as we know how to market. Marketing is like, is like calculated gambling. So, we can do our best, but we can still fail. And somehow there's the more niche your game is, the harder it is to sell, which is very difficult to say nowadays because niche stuff gets popular very quickly in a very weird way.
Yeah.
But then like stuff you think will work doesn't work. Then there's a whole thing about people supporting your game, like funding your game, but never like I can't expect the people who supported Capitalites to rave about it or to like promote it or to like give it their best at like marketing it for me, right? You know, the whole spiel, you know, like the whole like, oh, I made this game, you love the game. It's not your responsibility to like shove it in elsewhere, right? So like I can't get you to love it. I can't control your word of mouth, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So like it can be financially successful, but will it last? Will the game be remembered in 5 years? I mean, I'm going to try my best to make sure myself is remembered in 5 years, but we can't control that.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not like I guess we are not popular enough to have that momentum yet. You know, we're not like indie darlings, I guess.
Yeah.
Why are most of the indie darlings white? Why are they mostly white? They're probably like only like 2 or 3 indie darlings which are like Asian.
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know where we could probably solve that today if we wanted to, but I don't know that we want to.
No, that's not good. Eh?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Do you even want to become an indie darling?
That's really the question.
Like, it's a whole thing, isn't it? It's a whole
I saw what's his name? Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm spacing on his name. The creator of 10 Candles. I can't believe I'm spacing on his name.
Oh, yeah.
He I saw him say that, like, you know, his worst nightmare was being like or what he dreaded was being a one-hit wonder, you know, like he was terrified of being a one-hit wonder. The reality is, I like a number of his other games, but he is a one-hit wonder by the definition of that, you know, in a sense that, like, I feel a little bit bad saying that, but like, it's to a degree true. Like, people know what 10 Candles is. People don't know a number of his other games, if any of his other games. And so I think that is part of the, like, I guess I don't know. I guess I'm not 100% sure what it means to be an indie darling, but I do think that you have the risk of, like, just kind of ending up.
Yeah.
Your narrative gets shaped by other people when you're in that kind of position. Yeah. And I'm not sure that's great either. I'm not sure that's so great either.
I guess good. I can't speak for them, but I guess one thing I am wondering is, like, what if someone like Possum Creek wants to do something not within that brand? You know what I mean? That for example, so it's like, I guess for me, right, speaking for myself, I'm in a great position because I do whatever the fuck I want.
Yes.
You know, I make Christian games, I make Horse Girl, then I'm doing Lumen Ryder, then I'm doing Capitalites.
Yeah.
Like, I have avoided typecasting, but I'm not popular enough to be typecasted anyway. So like, but it's a great space. You know, it's a great space to be doing it on the side as a side thing, because we get to do what we want.
There you go.
We don't need to stick to a brand.
There you go. Yeah. Exactly. Okay, so before we go, tell people where they can find you. I'll link your itch, but go ahead and tell people where they can find you while I'm doing that. While I'm linking your itch into the chat here.
You can find me on Twitter on Babblegum Sam. You can find me on itch.io as Babblegum Sam. You can find me on Instagram as Babblegum Sam. I really just use the same name for everything.
It's in the show notes. Like, if you're watching this later, it's down in the show notes. Oh, I never got to ask you why Babblegum Sam. Where did the name come? I meant to ask you, where did the name come from? I never got around to that.
I started a podcast in 2016. It's dead now. I blasted it to hell. It was a podcast where I interviewed like life entrepreneurs and fitness people and all that kind of lifestyle stuff lah. So it was called Babblegum, and I've used the name ever since. I've nuked it because some of the people I interviewed turned out to be problematic in a bad way.
Oh no.
It happens.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so I will link everything in the show notes. If people are watching this later, you can find the itch, and it's in the chat for for right now. Sam, thank you so much for taking the time to
No,
come on early in the morning and drink a cup of coffee with me while I drink my beer here.
no problem.
Yeah, so Sam's going to stick around here in my little digital green room, and we're going to do a little bit of after show notes here. A quick question: which games can people buy right now? I mean, well, I guess people can buy Lumen Ryder still, or is it not because it's not quite finished? They can. Okay, so people should go to Itch and buy Lumen Ryder.
Lumen Ryder, Capitalites. The problem, I guess, not a problem, but the fact is both of these games are still on early access.
Yeah.
Trust me, that I am pulling out all my intestines and like nailing my heart to doors to get these games finished.
Awesome.
They are gonna get finished. Trust me.
There you go.
Get them early access now before I raise the prices.
There we go. All right. There you go. You heard it here. Get early access now before the prices go up. Sam, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
No problem. I appreciate it. Yeah.
I'm going to have Sam stick around here in my digital green room. I'm going to go back to just me here for a moment. I want to just wrap up the show by saying thank you again to Sam. Thank you to all of you also for watching. Don't forget to hit the follow button on here on if you're watching us on Twitch. Hit the follow button if you want to support what we do. You can also consider subscribing to the channel if you want to support financially. It goes a long way to support what we do, promoting deep conversations about ttrpgs and the intersection with spirituality, philosophy, psychology, religion. If you only caught part of tonight's episode, you'll be able to head to allportsopen.com to watch every episode of the show afterward, or you can find Holy Happy Hour Batman on YouTube. I have to apologize because I usually stream these directly to YouTube also, and I just honestly forgot to hit go on the YouTube stream tonight. So if you're watching this on YouTube right now, it's because I later uploaded it, which I'm going to do. If you're watching this live on Twitch, I haven't done that yet, but I will be putting this on YouTube later, so you'll be able to watch it there. I just have to go through the process of downloading and re-uploading the file. So that's on me because I forgot to hit stream onto the YouTube, but you can find all of our episodes at Holy Happy Hour Batman on YouTube. Please check out more great shows on the All Ports Open Network. Check out shows like Weeping Cedars. Check out Delinquent Comics, my Mask Actual Play podcast. It's super fun. Check out Pot of Love. I've been trying to get people into Pot of Love again. It's a show that it's a little old now in the terms of we started it in 2017, so it's 5 years old from the beginning. But, I'm really proud of that show because we took a lot of TTRPGs that are not your common games. We took a lot of romance and two-player relationship games that are not violence-based, games that are not combat-based. And we told the story of a small town, in season 2 anyway, of a small town in Maine. And it's a really satisfying season that tells sort of one complete story of a small town from beginning to end, kind of looking at through the lens of one particular couple, but also the relationships of the town and over time, and going back into time, into history of the town for 200 years. So I've been kind of trying to push Pot of Love again. It's been a while since we made it, but it's still out there and you can still listen to it. So huge thanks to Joshua Wise, my APON co-founder, for the artwork on the stream. Thank you for everything he does for our network to keep the lights on. Thanks to Doctor Octoroc for the use of his music on the show, which you heard at the beginning. And yes, this Thursday, May 5th, 2022, we will be itchfunding the Hard Lessons, our first itchfunding campaign from APON Games. Please consider going to our itch.io page and supporting it. So I've been That Gamer Priest, Ben. We'll be back next week for another amazing guest. Jason Cordova of The Gauntlet is coming back on the show. He's joining me again. We're going to be talking about their current ongoing Kickstarter. Speaking of Kickstarters that blow up and make a bunch of money, the extremely successful Kickstarter for Brindlewood Bay, that is going on right now. It's got over 3,000 backers. Just crazy for a cozy murder mystery solving RPG about old ladies solving mysteries in a small town. Who knew that there was so much space for that in indie TTRPG? So he'll be coming on the show. Jason will be coming on the show next week. We're going to be talking about that, so you won't want to miss it. All right, folks, enjoy the holiest and happiest of hours, and we will see you next week. Bye.